This week, we welcome Erik Nost, Senior Analyst at Forrester, to discuss the future of proactive security. In the Leadership and Communication segment, what the CEO and C-suite must ask before building an AI-enabled enterprise. Don't underestimate the value of professional friendships. What Kevin Bacon can teach you about cybersecurity careers, and more. Business Security Weekly starts now.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
It's the show where we explore the business of security to improve the security of business. Your trusted source for actionable insights on leadership, communication, and innovation. Get ready for Business Security Weekly.
Modern attacks don't just hit devices, they target your users to gain access to Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace. And when those platforms go down, it's not just email, it's your entire business. That's why there's Kaseya 365 User, one unified platform that protects your users and SaaS applications. Phishing, credential leaks, insider risks, it stops them all. Learn more and schedule a demo at securityweekly.com/K365. This podcast is supported by AutoRabbit. You trust Salesforce to power your business, but even the best systems have blind spots. Hidden risks like over-permissioned users, untested code, and missing backups can quietly slip through the cracks. AutoRabbit closes those gaps. Their DevSecOps platform brings automation, governance, and security together so you can build fast and stay protected. Because speed means nothing if you can't trust what you deliver. Visit securityweekly.com/AutoRabbit to learn more. Ever feel like your network infrastructure is stuck in the past? Meet Meter, the company reimagining what it means to get and stay online. Meter delivers full-stack networking, wired, wireless, and cellular, all in one seamless, scalable, and secure solution. From hardware design and firmware to software deployment and support, Meter streamlines every part of your network while giving you all the control and transparency you need. Whether you're managing a branch office, retail stores, or a massive data center, Meter gives you performance, reliability, and the visibility you need to stay in control. Thanks to Meter for sponsoring. Go to securityweekly.com/Meter to book a demo now. That's securityweekly.com/Meter, METER. Welcome to Business Security Weekly. This is episode number 430, recorded January 12th, 2026. I'm your host, Matt Alderman. Joining me for this interview segment today are my co-hosts. First, Mr. Jason Albuquerque. Pat's pulled it out, buddy.
We pulled it out. Let me tell you, edge of my seat the majority of the game, but all that matters is that W in the end, right? So great wild card weekend. You know, obviously my Pats won, but 49ers over the Eagles, which I'll take, you know. Bills over the Jags. I don't know. We'll see how they do against Denver.
Yeah, Denver's going to be the fun game. Yeah,
that's
sure.
Right. And then we have Texans and Steelers tonight to decide who the Patriots play.
Yep, exactly. You better be rooting for Summer's team. She's not here this week, but
only so we can kick their ass the following week.
Exactly right. Also joining Mr. Ben Carr. Ben doesn't care about football, so he's all good.
Yeah, just a relaxing weekend for me. Not doing a ton of stuff with football, but I got to install a water softener. So yeah, it was thrilling stuff.
Yes, you're on a well, aren't you, down there?
I am. Yeah. A lot of Texas is on a well. Yeah.
All right, one quick announcement, and then we'll get into the interview segment. Security Weekly listeners save $100 on their RSAC 2026 All Access Pass. RSAC 2026 conference will take place March 23rd to the 26th in San Francisco at the Moscone Center, as usual. To register using our discount code, please visit securityweekly.com/RSAC26 and use the code 56U as an umbrella, 5SecWeekly. I'm already registered. I'm already getting ready to do Broadcast Alley for year number 7. I think it's 7 or 8. Yeah. Been in Broadcast Alley for like 7 or 8 years now, so it's awesome. Hope to see you all there. Erik Nost is a senior analyst at Forrester, serving security and risk professionals. His coverage includes vulnerability risk management, attack surface management, breach and attack simulation, and security testing and validation. Erik helps Forrester clients build strategies to increase cybersecurity maturity and decrease risks in their enterprise. Erik, welcome to Business Security Weekly.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
You're new. You're one of the new Forrester guys. We'd love to have the Forrester analysts on. It's great that you guys are so open to sharing your research. It really gives our audience the ability to get kind of the tidbits from all this research, whether they're a Forrester client or not. So thank you. Let's get into this. So this is called the future of proactive security. So give us a little background on the research first. Like, why focus on proactive security? Kind of what was the impetus behind doing the research?
Yeah, sure. So I've been working at Forrester for 3.5 years now. They hired me to cover vulnerability management. And you know what happened about 3.5 years ago when I joined Forrester? Vulnerability management started calling itself something different.
Right. Vulnerability prioritization, vulnerability risk. Yeah.
Vulnerability risk management, to attack surface management, to exposure management, to all these things that ultimately, at the end of the day, Matt, like, what are you trying to do with a vuln management program? What are you trying to do with an attack surface management program? Well, you're trying to be less reactive so you can be more proactive. So you can get ahead of these things before they actually hit your environment, right? So I started framing it towards, well, what is the actual use case here? What is the outcome that these teams are looking to achieve? And this is where we started writing a whole bunch of research around how do you be proactive at the end of the day? Now? Why are we writing the future of? Well, everyone's talking about AI. Everyone's talking about how do you use agents to be more proactive. Mm. So I thought it was really important that we get into the weeds of, well, what is the reality of what teams can do? What are the vendors talking about? And what are these programs going to look like 1, 2, 4, 5 years from now? Particularly since, we've been doing and chasing all the same challenges we've had with vuln management for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention, Erik, it's not getting any easier for the teams either, right? I mean, the business is putting more pressure on us to do more with less, to run at the speed of innovation, to make sure we're building resilience at the speed of innovation, which is almost impossible to do with the team members that we have. And at the end of it, we can't throw bodies at this problem anymore. The problems are too big. They're moving too fast, and we just can't throw bodies anymore. So I'm very interested in this conversation on how we can use AI and agents today to help create operational efficiencies and allow us to gain some ground here. Is that what this research is helping do?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Jason, because the quicker we innovate and the more we adopt these technologies, and we use Claude and we use our low code, no code, and we start, deploying more of these more systems within our environment. Look at this. Like the barrier to entry to deploy technology and to write apps now, it's so much lower than it ever has been. Attack surfaces are spreading out more than they ever have. So, that's why we need to think about how are we collecting visibility on what our organization is doing. We have more signals than we've ever had. So how are we making sense of all this? What are our prioritization strategies? And there's always been an overemphasis on collecting visibility and implementing prioritization strategies. The third thing we talk about is, well, how do you actually fix this stuff? How do you remediate this? Because you can't just keep throwing things into a backlog. You need to actually go out and you need to patch these things. You need to remediate code vulnerabilities. You need to fix all these things that we've been prioritizing for so long.
So Erik, this gets really interesting, right? Because those are the three things we talk about. They're also the three big challenges we haven't solved very well in this industry. Like, think about visibility and the lack of asset inventories, right? Like, we talk about it on the show, like it's CIS 1 and 2, know your hardware, know your software inventories. Look, we suck as an industry at asset inventories, right? How can AI help us? Can it help us? Or do we have to fix this before we can even get to the other two promise areas, which is prioritization, remediation, which I'll hold till later. But this has been a struggle for us for a long, long time. That's where we have to start, isn't it?
It's the prerequisite. Yeah, Matt. It's where you always need to start. And you said, we suck at asset inventories. I would say we suck at combining all the signals that we have. We have various pieces of information throughout our environment. We've tried a lot of different sources to put together the type of signals we need to make informed decisions. I think the crux of the issue is really combining the signals to have a list that makes sense at the end of the day. We've been talking forever about, well, you can't protect what you can't see. We've implemented all these solutions that give us more stuff to see. So it's an overload in signals at this point. So a lot of what I tell people is, well, we need to combine these signals, and however and wherever you're combining these signals, this is what then becomes that source of prioritization. So it's the prerequisite of how we get there. It's the real challenge is analyzing and making sense of the wide array, this breadth and depth of signals that we have in a way that makes sense. And I'll add to that, say that sometimes these signals, like they're objective inputs, like they're things that exist or not. Real challenge, Matt, it's when they're subjective. Does this asset even matter? Are we properly protecting this asset? Are we overprotecting this asset? Are we investing on protection of this asset and it doesn't even matter? Depending on who you ask in that organization, they're going to give you different answers. So combining all these things into a single source of truth, when people's source of truth or their perspective or their truth of what an asset is and how important it is varies. That's why we don't have a single source of truth, because everyone's truth is different. Right?
Yeah, and we've seen evolution of attempts to do this, right? Each of the volume players have tried to do it, and they think they can be the single source of truth for assets, but they're not, because there's a lot of stuff they don't have. You've seen technology, you've seen companies evolve building these pieces. I won't name names, but we kind of know who they are. Even the CMDBs have attempted to do this. Based off your research, like how should we approach this challenge? Because to me, this is like the heart of it first, right? Like, how do I've said this for a long time. We don't have a data problem in security. We have a context problem in security. But no one's built the right contextual engine yet that I've seen that can really effectively combine all this stuff together, that gives us the foundation to go do the next two steps, which is...
And Eric, before you answer, I just want to add a little bit more to what Matt said, because there are places in the organization that we're not going to see telemetry. Shadow IT is probably the most I've ever seen it at this point, because you can have a marketing team go spin up a cloud piece of software. All they need is an account, right? So it's getting even more difficult. So we may not have the telemetry coming in. So I think there's a human and a relationship component to this as well. So I just wanted to add that piece in there, because we're not going to get the signaling all the time.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you can only work with what you know that you have, right? And I would add to that as well. Sometimes we think we have accurate information and it's outdated, right?
Yep.
It's the context issue. And where you see the market approaching this is obviously AI. We'll use AI to tell you what's important. We'll use AI to give you the context that you need. But I go back towards my comment around, well, a lot of the context is subjective. It depends on who you ask. And are we really going to have agents make subjective calls? Right? That's not their job.
Because the LLMs don't have context either, by the way.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
That'll turn out well.
Exactly. So I mean, that's exactly, what I think security leaders should be doing right now is taking inventory on what they know that they will be missing and what they'll need to make readable and accessible for agents for when it's ready. And I'm going to get on my pedestal here on business impact analysis, on disaster recovery testing, on tying business process back to the systems that we're ultimately building and supporting.
Yeah.
These are sources where we can, and that's just an example, right? That's an example of what we're talking about. We're talking about context that exists within an organization, but it's probably super outdated. You probably had the wrong person doing it. You probably had, you probably haven't had accurate results for your disaster recovery tests for the past 1-2 years. But these are examples of where we can start to look for context that exists within the organization, because eventually, for whatever magic AI agent you're going to go out and buy, you're going to need to make that information readable for AI agents to start to give you something that's actually meaningful, right? Because they can't derive it on their own. We know this, right?
Yeah. No, it's a super hard challenge. It also leads into the second challenge, which you pointed out in the research, which is prioritization is kind of failed us from a promise perspective. And again, I think it goes back to context, right? It's not a lack of data problem. It really is understanding the context of those assets to be able to then prioritize. And so 1 and 2 really get tied together, don't they? Because without accurate inventory and context, you're never going to solve the prioritization problem.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a prerequisite there. And all the principles of proactive security, visibility, prioritization, and remediation, they all feed into each other in this, cyclical type way, back and forth and into each other. But visibility is absolutely the prerequisite so you can have that right prioritization engine. And how you're sourcing your visibility. Go ahead, Ben.
I was just going to say, Eric, I feel like the challenge has been like we come at this from different angles, right? Different priorities ourselves, right? There's a human nature to this. And when somebody says to me, I want to do prioritization, I look at it as like, well, are you coming at this from a security angle or from an operations angle? Because from a security angle, it's let's set the priority to figure out what to address because it's important. And from an operations angle, I posit that it's what can we deprioritize so I don't have to mess with it because I've got too much stuff already, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about prioritization, we're not saying the same thing at all. Like, just like when we're talking about vulnerability management, like vulnerability management for me is identifying the problem. It's not the patching of the issue, but a lot of people in operations think it's patching, and that's not a security thing. That's an operations thing you should be doing in a different part of the cycle, like before it ever gets to me. So I just interested. I see some heads nodding from Matt and Jason. Eric, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, this is a lot of what, the folks at Kenna talked about forever. They talked about capacity. You can't do prioritization, until you know what your ops guys and ladies have the capacity to be able to fix. That's a part of the equation at the end of the day. Because we know that the folks that are responsible for fixing the things, they're not just sitting around waiting for security teams to tell them to fix something. It's priority number 5 on their list of things, right? So I think we need to do a better job around recognizing, well, what is the capacity that this individual has, whether it's in DevOps or engineering or in ops, as part of their weekly workload, in addition to all their other project work and their other requirements that they have within their role to fix security specific issues, right?
So can I challenge you a bit on that for a sec? Because I want to pick at that just a little bit. I have some questions. So when I think about let's just say I've got one guy and he can do X things a week, right? And I say, well, I'm going to define my priority on how many out of those X things he has spare cycles to fix. I kind of think we're starting at a bad place already. Like really what it would come down to is, hey, I've got this problem and it's got this amount of risk to it. I need you to fix it. And here's kind of the breakdown of what I would address from a risk priority lens. And then you, Mr. Operations team or CFO or COO, need to figure out, do you have a gap in your available cycles of the spare time you have to address this? And if it is, like, you may need 2 people or 3 people or 4 people. Like, just saying, like, I've got these X cycles and I can never get to it seems disingenuous to the problem. Now, I get it. Like, there's not infinite resources. So at the end of the day, we always should come back to what's the business willing to accept. But that's a discussion, not an edict or a, hey, I only have 10% of my time free. What can I do in that 10%? So again, how do you come out on that?
No, that's exactly what I was going to say, Ben, is
Okay.
you know what they do in that scenario is they say, oh, we're just going to risk accept it.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
They're just going to ask the CISO to sign off on it.
Seriously.
And then I'm going to turn that around and give it to somebody else and say, no, that's not a security problem. That's an operations problem, right?
Right. And then just to tether into your comment, Ben, like, how do we bubble the most important things to the top so those cycles are used wisely, right? So for me, it's like, all right, we have Patch Tuesday. Well, my team doesn't have enough cycles in that Patch Tuesday to get all the patches completed.
Yeah.
Well, how about we have like Likelihood Friday or Likelihood Tuesday, where it's, the likelihood of the exploit to happen, that's the shit you're going to patch right away. You know what I mean? It's like, we got to shift our priority, and
the
can
industry.
these tools and AI help us with that? Bubble the most important things to the top. So that way we're leveraging Patch Tuesday to the maximum risk management effectiveness.
And there's been this pivot in the industry I've seen over the last couple of years. I'm sure, Eric, you've seen this. Like, it's like, let's only look at the things that are actively being exploited. Yes. And then what we've seen on the corollary is the threat actors go, oh, well, they're only looking at things that are actively exploited. Let's pivot and specifically target the things that aren't, because we know they're not patching those at all. It's like you're setting out a recipe for being compromised.
Yeah, no, and I agree to kind of to comment what you were saying, Jason, around likelihood versus impact, right? Those are the capabilities that we have today, and that I see AI helping with, is helping to model likelihood, right?
Yep.
So likelihood meaning either it's reactive, that these are threats, these are known exploits, these are events that we have in our environment right now that we have to respond to. So this is going to be the number one priority. So that becomes a priority. What is going to continue to be difficult is impact, because back to all the things we were talking about earlier, the context.
Yep.
So, and as we see exposure management and attack path analysis and all these accumulation of signals coming together from what's happening in the vendor ecosystem now, they're giving you what's likely. What they're not giving you yet, and it's going to continue to be a challenge, is impact. So I think a lot of the prioritization that will continue over the next couple of years, they'll be likely. They'll give you some likelihoods based on attack paths and threat intelligence and some other features that they can provide. Impact's going to be up to you. It's going to be up to what you can provide, and having a consensus within your organization around, well, what is actually important.
Right.
Yeah, that's all right.
Just to continue on the mantra we've been talking about for the last 20 years, there's never going to be a silver bullet. There's always going to have to be involvement of the business. Always, always, always. Even with the magic AI.
Yeah. Well, that ties back into your earlier point around business impact analysis and understanding your resiliency, your disaster recovery, your impact. That's where the impact side comes from. That's a human. Right? Like, it's a human input. And the challenge has been the systems we do BIAs with, GRC-based systems, right? Governance, risk management, compliance, did some of these BIAs and all this other stuff, is completely disconnected from all the threat vulnerability data. And don't ever try to shove them together, because it doesn't scale. That's why I went to Archer years ago to try to fix it. Like, it just can't scale to that, right? So we've got these disparate systems still playing two different sides of this, which is you got all these new advanced exposure management systems that can help you more on the likelihood side. How likely is this to happen? Because I can correlate your threats and your vulnerabilities and all this other stuff. Great. But then all my impacts sitting somewhere else, sitting over in another system. You got to tie them together. Yeah. And that's prioritization, folks.
That likelihood, that likelihood factor, and Eric, really interested in what you think about this. the change here is going to be velocity, right? Like the likelihood is going to change because I think our understanding of likelihood was based upon, how much can somebody do, and they're going to go after the easy stuff. And the likelihood is going to change as AI comes into play. And the likelihood that they can just throw a ton more stuff at it and fail a billion more times before they get success is highly likely. Like that's where this is headed, right? So the automation has to happen on the front side because without it, there's no way you're going to be able to respond to automated.
And I mean, there's still a portion of the likelihood that is your business's fingerprint, because the likelihood in my business could be different than the likelihood in your business based on our
100%.
architecture and what we have connected to it, and APIs and identities and all these other factors. The likelihood changes business to business.
That likelihood of context still exists, but it's the time quotient that gets smaller in that likelihood factor. Yeah.
Yeah. So we talk automation, that leads us to the last pillar, which is remediation. And, I've seen this, I've talked about this for years, and it was a big kind of no for a long time for the vulnerability management players to not cross that line. The ability to automate the patches and do the remediation. That shifted in the last couple of years because now they're starting to go down that path. This is where I think AI can potentially help the most, in my opinion, which is the ability to allow those things to start to take some action and some automation around the remediation cycle. Is that where you see it as well, Erik?
Yeah, that's what we're starting to see. And, you do see the vulnerability management incumbents adding patch management into, what they're offering from their ecosystem. What you don't necessarily see yet, though, is wide adoption of organizations deploying these things with automation. I think ultimately how this plays out when we're talking about how AI plays a role in remediation, it's not agents making decisions and taking actions around what to fix and making configuration changes, but it's agents augmenting the process by giving you context within the remediation process itself.
Yeah, and I already see those. I see those systems today. Like they exist, and they're great, right? But at the end of the day, we go back to the capacity problem. And we go back to the velocity problem. If I can't use some automation to mitigate those, then I'm still not solving the problem, right? I don't know how we get there anyway else.
And there's a trust factor to this as well, right? Because you have to add in the resilience piece. Unless these automations are following my change management process, which includes a rollback plan if it fails, so testing and rollback. If it's not including that, I'm not automating anything. It's not going to happen, because the last thing I want to do is walk in the morning and all of a sudden it's a firefight the second we get in because everything's down, right? So you have to have these automations following a change management process and a rollback plan. Resilience has to be part of this.
And that's where we see agents augmenting the process today. So they're taking a patch and they're building out a ring architecture or a digital twin or whatever it is. And they're running that test so they can still have a human review what the result of a patch is or result of the change is. Agents aren't clicking the button yet. They're giving it to a human. And, this is where we talk about capacity, we talk about velocity. They can help speed up this process. But out of the organizations I talk to, they're still not willing to let go of the reins.
Yeah.
Because of all the stuff Jason just said.
Exactly.
Guess what? As soon as you automate something and it brings down whatever, small system, big system, customer facing system, you're never going to automate again.
Not going to happen.
So this is a tiptoe, not just crawl, walk, run, sneak, roll over and die if this thing doesn't fails.
Yeah, I mean, we spent a long time trying to build up our brand of being a business enabler, and then we bring automation to the table and we drop the business to its knees. Yeah, that hits the brand pretty hard.
Yeah, we're all a little gun shy from our history, but without some of these improvements, back to Ben's point earlier, how do we keep up? Because the attackers are using these technologies to attack us. They don't care if they break things because that's what they want to do, right? How can we leverage some of that to defend better against it? Because pure humans are not going to keep up with this technology. It's just not. And that's where I see the biggest challenges.
Yeah, I mean, there needs to be an appetite to let go, but there needs to be also the guardrails and the safety measures to know that we're letting go when we're not falling off the cliff. And that's where we have agents that can guide us, right? But we don't see people, taking that plunge just yet.
Yeah. A lot of talk, a lot of marketing around it. I'll tell you that because I see it. I saw it last year at RSA conference. I'm pretty sure I'm going to see it again this year too. So there's definitely a lot of talk. It just doesn't sound like there's a lot of adoption of that talk yet.
That's what I see.
Yeah. Erik, thank you so much for joining us on Business Security Weekly.
It's my pleasure. Thanks so much.
This episode is brought to you by Adaptive Security, the first cybersecurity company backed by OpenAI. AI has fundamentally reshaped the threat landscape. Today, the greatest risk isn't someone breaking into your systems, it's someone breaking into your trust. Deepfake voices joining your video calls. AI-crafted phishing emails that perfectly mimic your executives. Even synthetic job applicants entering through the front door. Adaptive Security is designed to counter these new realities. The company delivers real-time attack simulations that show security teams exactly what modern AI-driven threats look and sound like, and prepares them to respond effectively. Learn more at securityweekly.com/adaptive. Zero Trust is clearly the future as threats get faster, quieter, and harder to detect. But implementing it shouldn't disrupt the business. ThreatLocker enforces default denied execution in a way that remains enterprise-ready, scalable, and operationally clean. Unknown software is stopped cold, trusted apps stay contained, and drift is locked down across the environment. It's Zero Trust that works in real enterprises and prepares you for the threats ahead. See why CISOs are adopting it at securityweekly.com/ThreatLocker. Right now, with Tanium, IT and security teams complete patching programs in minutes, not weeks. Reduce software vulnerabilities by up to 97%. Cut incident response times by up to 99%. This is not just IT, this is autonomous IT. Making business, your business, unstoppable. Tanium, autonomous IT, unstoppable business. See more at securityweekly.com/Tanium. All right. Well, let's get into this week's articles, even though we could have probably done longer on that whole vuln management segment. Just saying.
It's good.
Yeah. Well, I have too much history with some of these conversations, right? Like back in the day, I was trying to push some of this automated remediation. And people are like, no. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't that long ago.
I love it.
Now they're all talking about it because it fits into the AI narrative. But yeah,
There you go.
yeah, a few years ago, nobody wanted to touch it. All right. First article, what the CEO and C-suite must ask before building an AI-enabled enterprise.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Treat AI like a strategic business initiative instead of a tool implementation. How about that? Let's start there.
Can we have the same conversation about cybersecurity, by the way?
100%. 100%. Been trying for a long time, haven't we?
Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
But I mean, that's the key, right? I mean, the CEO, the board of directors, the C-suite needs to look at it as a strategic initiative versus a tactical tool implementation that's going to, save the world at the end of the day. It's going to save me money, save me people. We don't have to hire. We can get operational efficiencies from it. But they're not talking about the risk. They're not talking about the why. They're not talking about use cases, where it's going to be valuable. The important conversations.
Right. And it's funny because some of the things we just talked about in the previous segment kind of come back here, right? Like AI without context. It's like cybersecurity without context. Like it's so interesting to see how they parallel each other in a lot of this because these AI tools don't have a lot of context. You have to build that context, right? You have to augment the LLMs with an understanding. Otherwise, it's great at content generation, but it's not really good at context. There's other methods you have to use. And I don't think people fully realize that, right? They just they run at this thing 100 miles an hour and then they realize, wait, it's making stuff up. Like it's not.
I mean, at the end of it, it's a lot like cybersecurity, right? We need the evangelists in the organization who are going to educate the CEO, educate the C-suite. And hey, by the way, if you have a technology executive who's your peer and you're the CISO and they're not doing it, jump right in, right? Because the last thing the business wants is for AI to become a very, very expensive experiment, right? Yeah. It's going to become an expensive experiment that fails, that could create a ton of risk within the organization. So as a leader, right, we talk about this all the time. Being a leader in your organization isn't just about title. It's about having the influence and doing what's right, influencing the business. So as a CISO, you want to show business value? Go educate them on how to implement an AI program. If someone else isn't doing it, you need to think about data hygiene. You need to think about the architecture. You need to think about the use cases and whether or not they add value. Right. You don't want a $150,000 experiment that fails.
And I think a lot of times they approach it just from, hey, everybody's doing it, so we need to do it, right? Like we're going to be behind the ball if we don't do it. And look, I've been in sales organizations where I've sat on calls, right, and listened to the salespeople get queried about like what they know about discovery about the account, like who's the financial buyer, who's the decision maker, like and they go through all these questions. Like there's forms and there's procedures for this, and if you don't know stuff, it should be an indication that like, that's great. You don't know stuff. Now here's what you need to go find out. Mm-hmm. Sales would never get through that cycle if it was just like, oh, you don't have any answers? Like, fine, go. Don't worry about it. We'll just figure it out how we're going to make the number at the end of the day. Like, and that's what they're doing here. Like on the tech side, it should be the same thing. Hey, you don't have answers to this? That's awesome. Go figure it out and then come back with it, right? To make sure that we have alignment that the strategy you want to proceed with is the right strategy for the company and has the right amount of risk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, fundamentally, they're looking at it as a magic bullet tool instead of a strategy.
Yeah. Well, remember, we covered the article where Salesforce was moving away from LLMs to more deterministic models for their agent force stuff, right? They had a strategy. They realized it wasn't producing. They shifted. Every single use case I use AI for has to align to kind of a use case that we can use it to solve for, right? There are some really interesting ways to leverage these technologies to do things more efficiently, right? We use them for things like embeddings, right? Because you can build context. It's really good at doing that. So you use it to embed and enrich your existing data. Awesome use case. And then I don't have to do it by hand. And I don't need to waste a bunch of people's time doing it. It's a really good use case, right?
And it'll run 24/7, so you don't have to hire 3 shifts worth of people.
Exactly. And so there's very specific use cases that this stuff works really, really well for. But until you sit down and really understand how these models work, and by the way, we don't use just one model. We're using OpenAI for certain things. We're using Claude for other things because each model's better. So not only do you have to understand the use cases, you have to understand what models are best at solving those use cases before you even go down this path of building this stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, I've even seen organizations do multi-model analysis. Have all 3 models go out there, figure out, come back with an answer, and then rationalize the 3 answers and see which one makes the most sense for the business.
Yep.
Have you ever tried to put a screw in with a hammer? It don't work so well. Use a screwdriver, right? And if you want to use a nail, use a hammer. It's the right tool for the right application for the right job. And you match those up, things work really well. You match them up wrong, you just get a bunch of bent screws.
Yes. Or like really crazy big holes in your wood. I mean, yeah. Next article. This one actually popped up in my email because I'm a Harvard Business Review subscriber. So this one actually popped up in my email before it got pulled into my my normal article stream. But leaders, bring your best self into the new year. Really interesting article on how to bring your best to the team. I thought it was a really interesting article. Like I said,
it is. I mean, I read the article, and one of the things that they came out was suggested that 50% of senior leaders fail because they can't bridge the gap between their capabilities and their daily work. It's like, listen, 50% of leaders aren't failing just because of that. Let's just put that out there, number one, right? But I get it, right? We want to make sure we're bringing 110% to the table when we're where we're sitting in that leadership capacity, right? We always want to give our all. Listen, we've talked about this a million times. It's the reason why we burn out people, right? Because we're constantly giving 110%. We're constantly giving it all. Now, do we need to make sure we're optimizing what we're doing? Absolutely. Do we need to make sure that we're focusing on the right portions of the business or the right initiatives or the right places to make sure we're the most effective? No doubt about it. We have to do those things as leaders. But I would say, speaking from a technologist and a CISO perspective, we work really hard. We work nonstop. There's a balance here that we need to figure out.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a couple articles similar to this in some of this conversation. This first point, though, I think is something that's really, really interesting. Know your ideal or your aspirational self. Know, align on what you're doing and what you want to be doing. Like I have in my career multiple times kind of stepped back and said, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing what I want to be doing? Right. Because when you're not going to be a happy and you're not going to be a good leader. And I think it's a grounding point. It's a new year. You know, a lot of people do their resolutions and stuff, which we don't ever do on the show. But it is a good kind of time of year to kind of step back and reflect and go, am I on the path I wanted to be on?
And it should be a cadence like that. It should be a cadence. It shouldn't just be when things are down or you're not feeling right or you're in the wrong role or you're in the wrong business. It should be something you're doing on a cadence, right? You know, my mantra is, who do I want to be when I grow up? That's my gut check all the time, right? Who do I want to be when I grow up? And then I think about where my next step is, where my next goal is. Am I where I want to be, right? So, I mean, even though we're prime into our careers, figuring out who you want to be when you grow up should be a thing.
Yeah.
You guys know what mine is, right? I've said this before. I want to be a Walmart greeter.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Why?
You want a sticker? Would you like a sticker?
Because if I can be a Walmart greeter, that means I've done everything else I wanted to do.
That's right. You know it.
TGI Fridays, man. Bring the flair.
Well, my wife keeps telling me, she goes, you can't be a Walmart greeter. You have to go work at Home Depot. So I'll be a Home Depot greeter then.
There you go. Perfect.
Oh, CIO time, how IT leaders manage their calendars. Anything that has to do with the CIO also has to do with the CISO. So I throw this one in here. Look, if you've got an EA, that's awesome, right? I don't. I have to schedule my own time. I live and die by my calendar. Like I can't, there's no way I can do the podcast, do my day job, all the other stuff that I do without the calendar. So my time is all organized in that calendar. If I have to do it, I'm not lucky to have an EA.
Right. It's funny. The article positioned it like it's this new thing, right? Yeah, I mean, insert CISO instead of CIO. You know, it explores how modern CIOs are shifting their focus now, right? From firefighting to enterprise strategy. Haven't we always been trying to do that? Like, come on, that's a thing, right? And you know, no, we all don't have executive assistants and we all don't have that capability to just, you know, have someone partnered with us that we can offload some of the tactical tasks to. But that doesn't mean we can't delegate. And that's something traditionally leaders are not really good at that I've seen is delegation, because they like the control, right? They like to know that they're doing it. They want everything perfect. Well, perfection isn't a thing. Open up and start to delegate and start giving some of the tasks. You know, there's a benefit to doing that. You're offloading some of the work from you so you can do some of the more strategic things you want to do. And hey, by the way, you're actually bringing some folks up into the organization now and you're teaching them things by doing that. You're giving them more responsibility. You're giving them more accountability and they're learning. There's a benefit on both sides. So delegate more is what I took out of this.
Yeah. Because one of these schedules starts at 4 a.m., works till lunchtime in Melbourne. He's in Australia, which is evening for the US. Then Australian workload kicks in. Okay. So this is at like noon. And then India comes online at 4, then another 4 to 7. Like that's a 17 to 15-hour day or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
It's crazy. Like
insane.
Yeah. Insane.
Right. That's burnout written all over.
Yeah. All right. Why leadership content breaks under pressure. This article, when I first pulled it, I was like, I read the beginning, but as you get down into this article, it gets really interesting about the comfort bias is killing leadership and gets into like all the uncomfortable things leaders really need to focus on. And I as I kept reading this article, I'm like, oh my gosh, like you want a reflection point. Like this article is going to make you do it because it's going to challenge some of the leadership advice and some of the leadership things that you read and hear about. It's going to kind of put it on its head a bit.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we see it all the time just in social media alone, right? I mean, social media, not even from a business perspective. Think of it from a personal perspective. People are on social media evangelizing the perfection of their lives and the beauty of their GQ cover and Family Matters cover when that's not their reality, right? It's all fake. Yeah. It's all, and we're seeing it on LinkedIn from business leaders too. Their leadership skills are absolutely perfect, and you need to align with all of these perfect things that we're doing out here in the industry. Guess what? The industry is hard. It takes grit. You need elbow grease, and some of it sucks, and you're going to have to really work through it. Yeah. It's not perfection. Yeah. That's being a good leader, is having the grit to get through the hard times, right? And really surface better, more successful. That's what it's all about. So why don't we tell more stories about the hard things, our failures, places where we've fallen on our face, so other people can learn from that? We don't see that. That's not what we see, because it doesn't get clicks, it doesn't get likes, it doesn't get comments. That's the problem with what we're seeing right now.
Yep. So true. At the end of all the way through, like it's a pretty good size article, but it kind of 3 takeaways: make decisions faster and own them longer. Tell the truth earlier than is comfortable. That's back to our transparency kind of discussion.
Even if it hurts, even if it's hard, even if it's going to be something that the person sitting across from you doesn't like.
Yep. And the last one,
that's the underlying key to that. That's the underlying key. Don't soften it. Don't make it fake. Don't make it social media. Right? Make it real.
And then reduce the noise you personally create. Most leaders think their job is to add energy. Often it's to remove chaos.
That's right. 100%. 100%. The amount of times over the course of my career as a leader that you're sitting there kind of as a middle person digesting 2, 3, 4 different perspectives and being that influencer to bring everybody together. And some of those are really, really hard conversations. That's the nitty gritty. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Right? For the benefit of the company, for the benefit of the employees of the company, for the benefit of your clients. That's what you need to be doing as a leader. Right? And never go out there and wear that as a badge. You know what I mean? I think I may have said this on the show before, but I've always had this thing called my 11th commandment, right? It's a thing that I read Ronald Reagan did when he was the president. If we have conflict and we're disagreeing on something, we're going to go in this office, we're going to shut the door, and we're going to beat the snot out of each other until we come to a consensus. When we come to that consensus, we're going to walk out that door, we're going to be hip to hip, shoulder to shoulder, in a team. That's what you need to be doing.
Yeah. Absolutely. The next 2 articles are kind of related. The first one, don't underestimate the value of professional friendships. The ability to split your personal and business life. Don't do it. Merge them. Integrate them together.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's
there's a fine line.
Over the course of my career, I've found that to be a recipe for disaster in so many instances. Now, we talk about building relationships all the time. Sure. Right. Absolutely. 100%. Build relationships with employees, build relationships with colleagues. But there's going to come a day, and if you've befriended folks within your organization, like true friends, there's going to come a day where you're going to have a really hard conversation that could annihilate the friendship.
Yes.
Could annihilate multiple friendships, because now your families are integrated, and wives may be friends and kids may be friends. They may come over for that can get really, really troublesome really fast. Yeah. So I always look at this as a balance. There's a balance there, right? I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of risk.
The way this article should have been titled is "Don't underestimate the value of professional relationships."
Relationships, exactly. Exactly. It's relationships. Friendship is a whole different level. It's a whole different level. And it takes a lot to be able to balance that within your, and again, now balance that with 20 people in the organization, 50 people in the organization that you have friendships with. There's going to come a day where you're going to have some really hard conversations at work and at home as to why things may have blown up.
Yeah. And you're going to have friends that naturally, like we spend a lot of time in our career, right? So naturally you will have people that you end up becoming friends with through that career, through whether it's you work directly with them or they're related in another organization that you happen to interact with. But like, you have to manage that well, right? You have to make sure you're aligning that well. Those people can be great relationships throughout your career. But again, it's knowing how to build that ring fence and understand, like, where do they sit? Are they friends? Are they acquaintances? Are they just people you happen to interact with from a business relationship? And like, I see a lot of people like friending people on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn has started to become this sharing outside of things that people would normally share, you know, in a business environment. And I think you really have to be careful of where those lines cross.
Yeah. And, you know, when the business politics gets in between friendship and really deep relationships, because again, you may come to a place where you have to make a hiring decision. And it's between the friend or someone who may deserve the job more.
Right.
That's a hard conversation to have, right? And
same one in the opposite, when you have to do layoffs or riffs or whatever. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I've been there. It's not easy.
Yep. Right.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Professional relationships.
All day
now
long.
That ties into this next one. What Kevin Bacon can teach you about cybersecurity careers. Somebody was eventually going to write this article. Now we talk about the 6 degrees. Look, if you're 6 degrees separated from me on LinkedIn, you're not in the cybersecurity industry. It's like 2.
Right.
Right.
Oh my God. That's so funny.
But
yeah, I mean, you know, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, but this article, so I don't get them. There's a mixed message in this article that it talks about supply chain and then it talks about cybersecurity careers. And it's like
careers.
Yeah. Which one are you trying to get across?
It was a multiple personality divergence in content, right? Because I started reading like, all right, supply chain. And then I go to the next paragraph and all of a sudden it's about, hey, and now you can take this to your career. It should have been 2 separate articles, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Because I when I read the title, I thought this was going to be about cybersecurity careers and in the 6 degrees of separation and in building out your professional network, which it does. But then it also talks about supply chain and in the degrees. And I was like, wait, like you're mixing messages here. I tried to pull out the cybersecurity career components of this because I think it is true, right? That, you know, to build out your professional relationship. People ping me all the time on LinkedIn. I haven't spent as much time up on LinkedIn recently as I used to, just because there's so much other stuff going on. But if people reach out to me and they need help, I help them, right? Like that's part of that network sharing and having a good network. And it's benefited me when I needed a job or to find stuff, right? And so I think from that perspective, this article does make a lot of sense on you need to build out that professional relationship and a network that you can lean on when you need it, that you can help people do, because the section in here, why this matters now. And this is, to me, the thing I wanted to get out of this article more than anything. Cybersecurity market has matured. Certifications are common and tool familiarity is expected. What differentiates professionals is their ability to reason across boundaries. Forget the supply chain stuff. But look, you have to be able to set yourself apart in this job market, because it's been tough. And it's not just, do I have a certification? Do I know these tools? You have to be able to reason and explain how things happen. Also in these job career kind of opportunities, because it is a different hiring market right now.
Oh, 100%. And you know, it kind of took the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon and made almost like a maturity model, like you just said, right?
Right.
Like degree 1, you're focused on tasks and tools. Then when you're at degree 2, you're focusing on other teams and who depends on what you're doing, right? And then you have the 3rd degree, which is vendor dependencies and client dependencies and all of these other things. And then you get to that highest level where it's true business impact, right? Business enablement, business strategy, revenue. You're talking about revenue and regulatory exposure and things like that. So I look at it like a maturity model throughout your career as a cybersecurity professional.
Yep, exactly right. So just skip the supply chain stuff. There's some good career discussions in there about it. Gentlemen, always a pleasure. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you everyone for watching and listening. We'll see you next week on Business Security Weekly.